Or joining me now is Philip Ingram, former senior British Army intelligence officer. Such a curious story, isn't it? Philip, where do you think it's surfacing? From them it is day 521 of Vladimir Putin's 10-day special military operation, and we're talking North Korea. Again. The troops on the ground, whenever they were speaking to the journalists, said that it had come from a friendly country that had captured them. I've been through all the armed seizures that have been over the last while and haven't seen this type of grad missile in any of the armed seizures that have been reported openly. However, what we did have were reports of Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner Group, going to North Korea last year to procure weapons and ammunition from North Korea. North Korea's got huge stocks of them and using them in Iran backwards, so it would tie in with what the Ukrainian government has said, and that they've captured them from Russian stocks on the ground, and of course it's the same caliber, so the best way to dispose of them is to use them. Let's talk about what's happening on the ground, because we had those rocket attacks, didn't we, that hit delete pro a commercial, not a commercial, it was a residential house of it here. That's quite well, yeah, with 2 Russian rockets hit in April. Last night one hit a residential apartment block, the other hit the headquarters of the SPU, the Ukrainian security services. And interestingly, it was only 2 rockers. This is the residential block, and some of the damage that there is, and some of the debris that there was on the ground. But interesting, there's only 2 rockets. The Russians usually fire a number of them in a number of different targets, so it's too early to say what the implications are, and of course it wasn't just the Russians firing rockets. The Ukrainians allegedly fired rockets into the Rostov or Blast port city of Taman Rog. And the Ukrainians haven't made a formal statement on this yet. The Russians said that they intercepted the rocket and shot it down, but we've got some local footage here from the rocket coming in, and we can see it exploding into the building. The Russians could have sort of knocked it out of the sky before it hit his intended target. No further details on that yet. Okay. Find a war then. We know that the spring offensive that stilted earlier this year, we're expecting results all the time, aren't we, in this business? But that's not going to happen, particularly on the front line, while the difficulty is politically. People want results by a timeline, and the fix this timeline in their minds. And the Ukrainians, you captured large parts of territory back very quickly last year. However, this is a completely different game. Ukrainians they've got the initiative at the moment. The counteroffensive is working well. The timelines are being dictated by the Russian defenses, by the enemy, and the Ukrainians are progressing slowly, but they are progressing. And there were some successes from Orov down to Robotyne. They have had some successes in capturing Star on Mayosk, which has been under Russian control. They've had some successes and are beginning to transcircle Bakhmut, especially in the south, and getting in there, and the Russians are contra-attacking up to the north of Kremina and tried to push forward, but not making any real progress. The Ukrainians, putting this into context, the Ukrainians in the last month, and this is according to the head of MI6, have captured back more territory from the Russians than the Russians captured in the whole of last year, so progress is slow. They're right up to the main defensive lines. And the Ukrainians are attacking the Russians from 2 sides from the front, but from the depth, and one of the things they're attacking is morale. Ukraine morale is very good, and this is President Zelensky visiting frontline. Troops up near Bakhmut on the back. Motor area today, I'm giving out awards. He's very good at maintaining morale. We're not saying the Russian command is coming up and doing the same into their areas, and the Ukrainians are successfully attacking logistic nodes. Armored vehicle workshops, lines of communication, rail and roads, so they're eroding the Russians' ability to support the Ukrainians from behind. They're attacking. Support the Russians from behind. There the Ukrainians are attacking the Russians from the front, and when they break through that trust, and it's a very, very hard crust, then they can exploit it. But there's only about 90 days left of proper armored warfare weather before the ground starts to get too soft. They may not be able to launch their full counteroffensive until the spring of next year. Hopefully it'll be before that, but we have to be prepared for it to be later.